Hello, and welcome to your favorite bookish podcast, Fully Booked and Caffeinated. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kelsey.
And today we will be discussing Fiona Davis's historical fiction novel, The Spectacular. Now, before we dive in, or kick out, however you want to phrase it,
I also realized that this is our second episode with the word spectacular.
Yeah, when I went to go start my notes for this one, I was like, oh, I did spectacular things last month.
Yeah.
I was on brand, apparently.
I feel like we don't use that word enough.
We do not. It is a good word. Before we dive in, shall we discuss our dalliance and adventure to Wren's Coffee House and Bookstore in Blackwood on Saturday?
Yes, because
where we both had like the best coffees of our life.
It was so freaking good. And I got a latte at this other coffee shop yesterday, and I was like, oh, this is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But Wren's was so good.
It was so good. It was so good. Although I was in Bordentown yesterday, so I did go to Turtle Beans.
Turtle Beans is good too.
Yeah, and I got the same exact, I got the marshmallow cold foam again. Because it's delicious.
I screenshotted what we got, the menu, so I could say what we got from Wren's.
Yeah, I got the salted caramel pretzel, right?
Yes. So that's salted caramel latte with caramel drizzle and pretzel pieces. And it had a whole pretzel on top of there.
It did.
And I got the nutty gnome. Oh, I was about to ask a dumb question. It's a honey and cinnamon latte topped with pistachio cold foam.
Yeah, that's fun.
It was delicious. And they had a bunch of stuff that looked good. It was busy in there too.
Yeah, I think all around I just love the vibes. Mm-hmm. And they were definitely very inclusive of all like genders. Yeah, they had a lot of transgender stuff. There was like this trans fair in like next 2 weeks that looks like so much fun. You know what I mean? So they're very much...
And they had a great book selection.
Good, safe place for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. I liked, and they had both new and used books, which is always good.
I love because, listen, it's hard to be buying full price books when I've got 1,000
that was
books
why
at home.
Yesterday I went into the old bookshop in Bordentown. Didn't even know that was like a used bookstore, like a book garden, and I walked out with like 3 romances.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I never go there because it's always closed when I'm in Bordentown.
Yeah, I will say for you, maybe not as good, but for me, like the romance section was out of this world. Like I was very, very impressed. They had a lot of indie novels that I have read on my Kindle that I was very surprised to see there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I actually picked up 3 separate romance authors that I have not read before but want to.
Okay, I love
and
that.
They all came out within the past 3 years, and I got 3 of them for the price of 1, basically.
Oh wow!
And the 2 that I got were like Barnes and Noble's exclusives too. So
that's crazy. Okay, so basically we need to go back there, is what you're saying.
And their kid section was amazing as well.
And so Bordentown
we do have to go back. Too. Yeah. Because I was there with my toddler, so it was a little chaotic.
Yeah.
You need to go. So next
Sans child.
We'll have to go back.
Sounds good to me. It's 15 minutes for me.
Any New Jersey locals, go to both Wren's Coffee House and Bookstore, as well as the old bookshop in Bordentown, and go to Turtle Beans. I loved both.
Yeah, we've got great recommendations from this weekend.
Seriously, and there's more to come.
It's so true.
All right. Fiona Davis is a New York Times bestselling author of 8 historical fiction novels, which are all set in iconic New York City buildings. Mm-hmm. So every novel, this was my first time reading a novel by her. I believe it is yours as well?
No, I read one other one.
I lied. That was a big lie. Okay.
I'm gonna look it up.
Well, it was my first time, and I didn't know that was her thing. So I like that's kind of like her brand.
I read The Dollhouse, which is also about you said, a historic New York building.
And there will be a new novel coming out in 2027.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm. She first came to New York as an actress, but fell in love with writing after getting a master's degree at Columbia Journalism School. And when she writes her novels, though they are historical fiction, there is a little bit of like truth to them. So someone on Goodreads had asked Fiona how she decides how much fact and how much fiction she includes in her stories. She indicated that it all depends on the story, and went on to say, specifically with regard to the spectacular, that in real life, a rocket in the 1950s didn't help take down a serial bomber. For the book, I interviewed a dozen or so Rockettes who had danced during that era, and much of what it was like to be a Rockette back then is very true. It's also true that the Mad Bomber was caught in the late 1950s, and that he targeted Radio City Music Hall twice. I was compelled to merge those two ideas into my plotline, as I thought that it would make a great novel, and then, as in all my books, I explain very clearly what was fact and what was fiction in the author's note.
Okay.
I don't think I ever knew about these bombings.
No, me either.
So, like, that's crazy that actually is something that did happen back then. That's terrifying also, especially knowing that someone is targeting a place that is supposed to just be pure joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is always packed and always hectic and busy, and
especially around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So Storygraph, who's it for? It's a decent one. I think I would give this one like a B+.
Oh, okay.
If we're going to do a rating scale of the word salad. For readers drawn to mid-century historical mystery exploring the tension between societal conformity and the hunger for personal ambition. Ideal if you prefer medium-paced narratives with glamorous aesthetics, a hopeful yet mysterious tone, and a blend of suspense and feminine agency over dense world-building.
That is very accurate.
It's very accurate.
Very word salady as usual, but it's on the money.
Good word salad.
Okay. Storygraph, you're getting so much better.
I know. So, New York City, 1956. 19-year-old Marion Brooks knows she should be happy. Her high school sweetheart is about to propose and sweep her off to the life everyone has always expected they'd have together. A quiet house in the suburbs. Marion staying home to raise their future children. But instead, Marion finds herself feeling trapped. So when she comes across an opportunity to audition for the famous Radio City Rockettes, the glamorous precision dancing troupe, she jumps at the chance to exchange her predictable future for the dazzling life of a performer. Meanwhile, the city is reeling from a string of bombings orchestrated by a person the press has nicknamed the Big Apple Bomber, which, by the way, that is the coolest name. Who has been terrorizing the citizens of New York for 16 years by planting bobs. Oh
my God. We're off to a rough start.
By planting bombs in popular crowded spaces. With the public in an uproar over the lack of any real leads after a years-long manhunt, the police turn in desperation to Peter Griggs, a young doctor at a local mental hospital who espouses a radical new technique, psychological profiling. As both Marion and Peter find themselves unexpectedly pulled into the police search for the bomber, Marion realizes that as much as she's been training herself to blend in, performing in perfect unison with all the other identical Rockettes, if she hopes to catch the bomber, she'll need to stand out and take a terrifying risk. In doing so, she may be forced to sacrifice everything she's worked for, as well as the people she loves the most. Which, like, by the way, we also haven't recorded in, like, I haven't done an episode in like over a month, so I'm a little rusty.
Bear with us. We're learning how to speak today.
So before we jump into the ins and outs of this novel, shall we take an ad break?
Let's do it. If you're a listener of the pod, you know that Heather and I are booked and busy. We're always looking for ways to make our life easier and to boost our energy and focus, which is why we've got a company for you to check out called Strong Coffee Company. Their instant coffee and latte options not only provide a quick route to your delicious morning coffee, their blends are also infused with 15 grams of grass-fed protein, 5 grams of MCTs, 250 milligrams of adaptogens such as ashwagandha and theanine. If you're like, what the heck does all that mean? It means you'll be getting much better sleep, more mental clarity, and no jitters or crashes. Better sleep means more productivity and more energy to do things you love, like read and listen to this podcast. So if you're committed to being your best, healthiest self without giving up your daily cup of coffee, check out Strong Coffee Company. We've got an exclusive discount for you only for listeners of our show. Head to strongcoffeecompany.com and use promo code CAFPOD to get 20% off any product. This is the highest discount Strong Coffee offers, so make sure to use this code ASAP and let us know what you think. Again, that's strongcoffeecompany.com and use promo code CAFPOD.
If you've been a long-time listener of the pod, you know Kelsey and I are all about pop culture and the entertainment industry. And if you happen to be looking for a one-place stop to shop for officially licensed merchandise, we've got the place for you. Old Glory is the ultimate destination to shop, offering over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans. This family-owned superstore has provided high-quality clothing and accessories since 1969, featuring the world's most iconic bands, sports teams, fan-favorite apparel, and quirky gifts, which means there's truly something for everyone. With free standard shipping and same-day order processing, Old Glory delivers fast and reliable service with every purchase. So whether you are shopping for yourself or looking for that perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality merch, and our lucky listeners will receive an exclusive 15% off any product with the promo code CAFPOD. So head on over to oldglory.com to begin shopping their wide range of high-quality merchandise and get that exclusive discount. Again, that's Old Glory, OLDGLORY.com, promo code CAFPOD.
All right, and we're back. The narrative structure of The Spectacular occasionally alternates between the primary timeline of 1956 and the 1992 alumni reunion for the Rockettes. So the novel surrounds the life of Marion Brooks in the autumn of 1956 and her love of dance. She pursues a performing arts career with Radio City Music Hall's famous Rockettes. And following this career path, she upsets her misogynistic father and her wannabe I want a trad wife boyfriend Nathaniel, who encourages Marion to settle into the traditional role of wife and mother, as was typical of the 1950s American nuclear families. So we're already off to a great start in this book.
Hate it already. Fucking Simon.
We'll discuss that later on. Wanting his daughters to be safe and provided for, Simon believes that the only acceptable life plans for women should be limited to roles of wife, teacher, nurse, or secretary. You got 4 options, baby.
All those big, strong men in their corporate jobs need a good secretary.
Yep. So as I clearly indicated, a very misogynistic attitude. However, Marion does not allow her father to manipulate her, and she leaves their Bronxville family home and moves into a boarding house for women in the performing arts world and establishes her career as a professional dancer. The idea of living in a boarding house with a bunch of other women pursuing careers in the 1950s sounds like so much fun.
Especially at her age, because she's so young.
So young.
It sounds amazing, and also it sounds like she was paid so well for that time. Like, they were able to do basically whatever they wanted.
I know, and coming from a life where she didn't seemingly have any friends or close connections to be thrown into this atmosphere, I'm sure it would be very overwhelming, but also such a great learning experience.
And everyone was so accepting of her and so warm to her, and she was kind of judgy, but no one ever judged her at all.
No. And I can't blame her for being a little judgy, because look at the life that she was born into. Marion's sister Judy had conformed to this ideology that you should only be a wife, nurse, teacher, or secretary. So she is very much doing that. She is the secretary for her father at the Metropolitan Power place that they work at. I don't really even know what they do. I forget what the whole point of that job is.
I think it's like JCP&L or PCNG.
Right? Kind of.
Yeah. Okay. They just run electricity to the city.
So she's the secretary for her father specifically. And this causes the two sisters to struggle to relate with each other, but they understand and empathize with their mutually complicated emotions surrounding the unexpected death of their mother, Lucille, when they were both very young. So she was tragically hit by a car while in Boston helping a sick friend.
Allegedly.
And, their subsequent upbringing with a single father. So while they definitely are on two different ends of the spectrum and they don't relate on anything, throughout the novel, you get the indication that Marion was the perfect, beautiful child and teenager, and Judy was kind of, put a paper bag over her head kind of person. Like she only had brains, she didn't have looks.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that Marion was so similar to their mom, it's like this constant reminder of the woman who's no longer there, so it was like hard for them to get close with her.
But they did their best, I would say. I think it is difficult. I mean, we both have sisters, so like we know, and I think that we're also very different from our sisters. So like when you're in that scenario of we have nothing that we can relate on, it's hard to really have a significant bond. So whatever they can bond with over each other, I think they should grasp onto it for sure.
And Judy was kind of a bitch.
Definitely. Not kind of. Marion also builds a supportive friendship with the Rockettes and the women from the boarding house, most particularly Bunny. I loved Bunny so much.
So much.
Bunny was like the perfect role model for Marion as she entered this chaotic world of performing arts in New York City. Like she got so lucky.
Just completely took her under her wing, like convinced her to take the job.
Yeah.
Just completely opened her eyes to this whole world that Marion never knew existed.
Exactly. And in those relationships, Marion discovers the concept of encouraging each other, celebrating achievements, and aiding each other when problems arise, which is something she definitely never experienced growing up. Bunny helps bring Marion out of her shell, and there is one point in the book which this is only to introduce Peter Griggs and no other reason, and brings her on a double date with her boyfriend Dale, who is a married man, scandalous, and his friend Peter Griggs, who is rather good at profiling other people and is seemingly very awkward.
Yeah, and does not want to be there.
Yeah, like the exact opposite of Nathaniel. Over the past 16 years, there has been a serial bomber known as the Big Apple Bomber who has been terrorizing New York City by randomly planting bombs in densely populated areas and often leaving letters expressing his hatred for Met Power, which is the company that I had mentioned. That's Simone.
Oh, how dare you call him a woman's name?
Wait, that's so funny because actually I was watching this I'm gonna go off track for a second. I was watching a TikTok earlier, and it was this girl who she was like, I'm just so mad at the male species right now, so she turned all her male Sims characters transgender into.
Oh my god! So she wouldn't have any men in her Sims.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna make them all masked lesbians.
That's amazing.
Oh, so anyways, maybe my mind was just thinking of that.
With Simone.
The company that Simon and Judy work for. One evening, Judy stays out to see Marion in the Christmas Spectacular, which is very much against her father's wishes and unbeknownst to him because Simon is completely against Marion's life choice to be doing the career that she has chosen because it is not one of the 4 that she was allowed to choose from.
And how dare she not live in a house with him for the rest of his natural life.
Yes. And while there, the Big Apple Bomber planted a bomb in the seat between him and Judy. And since she was near the bomb site, she dies from her injuries. And tragically, like, Marion witnesses her sister's death from the vantage point on stage, which that's like traumatizing. But it's all like rather unfortunate. But even more so because right before this moment of Judy watching Marion perform, the two sisters had kind of this moment in time where they were beginning to work on their fragile relationship. You know, at this point, Judy kind of opens up a little bit more to Marion about how she is very like protective of Marion, and she like understands that they're so different.
Mm-hmm. And how she kind of feels stuck in her future, where
Yes.
Marion was always convinced that Judy like actively chose that, but Judy's like, no, this is really my only option and I'm just making the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also a way for Marion to show Judy like, now you see why I love this so much. Now you see why I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah, and then show what, which was also a really cool moment before the tragedy happens, is because at one point when Marion looks out into the audience, she sees the joy on Judy's face, and she's like, oh, she's gonna understand how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
because obviously Judy doesn't smile much.
No, definitely not.
But also, sidebar for a moment, the fact that this guy has been bombing for 16 years, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll talk about the incompetence of the police, but my point is, he's still setting ineffective bombs. You've been working on this for 16 years.
And also, at this point in time where patrons not patted the fuck down or had their like belongings checked,
they're like, we got 6 shows a day, we can't be checking bags.
I mean, I guess that's
he
fair.
Had a big ass knife on him, but like, you would think that practice would make perfect, right? Like, his bombs should be doing some damage now. And now they're like, oh, no one was hurt, oh, it barely went off, like, besides Judy.
Yeah,
anyway,
sad. So obviously Marion feels responsible for Judy's death, and her guilt worsens when her father also holds her accountable, since Judy was there at Radio City. But regardless of all these factors, Marion cannot find herself able to quit dancing, and she returns to Manhattan to continue her work as a rockette, which of course further enrages her father. But I also like appreciate the fact that she didn't just immediately give up. You know, like there was obviously that moment where her dad very much was like, oh, now you're going to stay home with me, right? Because now you're not going to make me lose another loved family member. But Marion's like, nah, I gotta go kick.
Yeah, and especially after this had been going on, where she realizes, oh, he's not going to change his mind, he's never going to warm up to the idea, he's never going to be okay with it, and for her to still be like, nah, I'm still doing it, that was a big deal.
It was. And I think it shows the character development of Marion herself throughout 100%. The book. While back in the city, she begins to investigate the Big Apple bomber herself. All of a sudden, she becomes a little sleuth.
Well, women aren't supposed to have thoughts, so this is a big deal.
Oh, I know. And because she was able to catch a glimpse of him while at the show. And to this end, she seeks the help of Peter due to his work as a psychiatrist and his uncanny ability to read and understand people. Because, of course, the police at first don't care. They're like, okay, you saw him? Great. The description you're giving is every single man in New York City. Which, fair. That is a fair reaction. But, you know, they could have asked a sketch artist. You know, they did it for the usher, the man usher that when the next place he bombed. And originally, so what's the difference?
Originally, they didn't even want to take a statement from her. They didn't even care. She was like, don't you want to ask me questions? And they're like, nah.
Like at the time of her sister's death, they're like, no, we're good. Which, and it is specifically the one police officer, Ogden, who is just kind of like a dick for absolutely no reason. He just must obviously hate women. And because like Captain Summers is definitely a little bit more receptive. He's still in the beginning is like kind of not on her side initially, but as the investigation wears on, he obviously gives credence to her and Peter.
And he also realizes that whether they believe her or not, they do have certain duties as police officers to take a fucking statement.
But she's a woman, so we know how that goes.
Girls in their hysterics, you know.
She encourages Peter to work with the NYPD to create a profile of the Big Apple bomber. But since like this specific investigative technique of profiling was too new, the police officers are doubtful about the profiling, because obviously this didn't become, gosh, when did this become big? Was it like the 60s?
I watched
because
Mindhunter, but I don't remember. Let's see.
I know, because obviously it became this massive wave of amazingness.
Yeah. Well, and also because the cops are like, oh, you're going to tell me that this person who has no police training is going to know more than us when we've been stumped for 16 years?
Which you would think you would appreciate fresh eyes on a case.
Says the behavioral science unit wasn't established until the 1970s.
Yeah, okay, 70s. That makes sense.
But 1957, Dr. James Brussel profiled the Mad Bomber.
Oh, okay. So this is
that's
actually
what we're talking about.
Okay, great. So she took this as well from it. All right. So now Peter Griggs's character now also makes more sense to me in this novel.
Yes.
If I had probably read the author's note at the end, I would have delineated this, but I didn't. For once, I actually didn't read the author's note.
I'm surprised you didn't.
I know. I actually didn't even think about it. I'm actually a little bummed that I didn't read it. Marion overhears Russell, one of the show's producers, complain that she stands out too much from the other dancers because her dancing is too stunning and it distracts attention from the group, ruining the illusion of unison that the Rockettes strive to create. While up on the roof to get some air after hearing this, she is attacked by the Big Apple Bomber and narrowly escapes. Due to the attack and the idea of standing out too much, she ultimately decides to step down and end her career as a Rockette. She returns home to Bronxville to her misogynistic father and begins to grow suspicious, though, that her father may be hiding crucial information from Met Power's personnel files that might reveal the bomber's identity. So she begins to notice that when her father might be hiding something, he has this tell of his hand tremors, which eventually we learn is actually he has Parkinson's, but this is like obviously a cause of like stress, a stressor. And so she begins to realize, which like another thing that I loved about Marion is that she's definitely a lot smarter than people give her credit for. Because like she even caught like Peter when his reaction, he would stutter when he was lying and everything. And like like girl should have been a police officer or like a detective. Like she is just so able to see these tells of these men. And then, you know, she just kind of like pockets it in her mind and then reflects back on it. And it helps in different scenarios.
Yeah, she's very observant.
Yes.
And because so many people, when they talk to her, just limit her to, a dancer and, being beautiful, it's even harder for people to see how quick she is, how witty she is.
She decides to do some investigation on her own and ropes poor Peter into breaking in at Simon's office to locate the missing files, which
poor
reveals
Peter has got it bad. Okay,
I know.
That's why he's sticking around.
I know. And they find the missing file, which reveals that the bomber's identity is George Martinek. Don't know if I'm saying that right.
Close enough. Also, it bothered me that they were able to find this file within 20 minutes.
I know. Obviously. Yeah. One of the more moments of, you know, unbelievability that can pull you out.
Yeah, one of the more unbelievable timelines. And there were a few.
They discover that Martinek had suffered terrible injuries while working for Met Power that left him unable to work, and the company blocked his efforts to receive workman's compensation. Love a big company not wanting to pay out their injured employees. And it caused him to live with intensifying anger for the company ever since, because they basically screwed him over and didn't tell him about the workman's comp until it was too late. So he couldn't, like, and he keeps appealing and keeps getting denied. So,
which is crazy.
I can understand his frustration towards this big company.
Yeah, and then even at the end, Marion says at one point, like, how many people did they do this to? How many people did they trick into not being able to file, you know, for these lifelong injuries?
And I can bet that this is something that did happen back then.
100%. It happens now.
I know, but especially in like a big city like that, that's up and coming and, you know. They're just,
and when they didn't
want
have
to pocket the money themselves.
And they didn't have great records and stuff like that to keep track of.
Yeah. So the duo takes their crazy sleuthing one step forward and stalk out to Martinek's house to make sure it's him.
Wild. They gotta borrow a car. They gotta drive to Connecticut.
Yep. And once they confirm their theory, and while he's out of the house, they do another break-in. And they discover tickets to Radio City for later that week and figure that that's the next bombing attempt. And since the police keep dismissing their theories, Marion enlists the help of a family friend who is a police officer, good old Tommy boy, and they successfully plan a way to stop the bombing from being successful while also capturing Martinek. So, like, their plan is, you know, Peter will sit like a row or two behind him, and then Tommy will kind of be like in plain clothes at like the door. And if he tries to leave, he would stop him. But obviously, like, there, you know, Martinek had seen them at his house, and so he recognizes Peter, and so he goes and like complains about him.
This is also the dumbest fucking plan. You're letting this man bring a bomb into Radio City Music Hall, and she's on stage dancing.
I know, and also
why wouldn't she just buy a ticket in the?
I don't.
This but plan then pissed me off.
Maybe because you could see like her heroic actions of leaping and catching it, and then stuffing it in a hail bay.
I hope no camels were hurt in the.
I know, in the making of this.
Yeah,
in the making of this novel. So after the arrest, things begin to fall into or out of place because you have the issue of Simon never coming forward in a timely fashion to offer the police the information from the personnel files and his identity being revealed. And then Met Power basically fires Simon to cover their asses.
And
so
blame the whole thing on him.
He's kind of like a scapegoat in a situation. And this leads him to now being unemployed, and due to his recent diagnosis of Parkinson's, he's not going to be able to get another job. So like he's now losing that definitive job security. And then on the other side of the spectrum, Marion receives a job offer to be an assistant choreographer. And she discovers that the producer of the play is the same one who had worked alongside her mother. So at the very beginning of the novel, Marion goes into the attic and discovers that her mom was also in performing arts. She wanted to be an actress, and she was in plays, and she was on route to being in a play, but she got pregnant with Judy and therefore put her actress career on the back burner. And Simon just never told his kids this, so like they had no idea. And now obviously Marion understands herself a little bit more because she realizes that it does run in like the family, the performing arts gene, and she realizes that had her mother still been alive, she would have supported this career, and she would have supported the path that Marion tried to take when she was younger by going to like this very prominent like ballet school or whatever it was, and her dad was like, no.
Yeah, and every time that it would come up when they did finally talk to the dad about it, he would frame it as like, no, she wanted to give it all up because she was happy being a mother. She loved you guys. She was happy to stay home, and it was enough for her. And so then Marion starts feeling like, why don't I feel like it would be enough for me if it was enough for my mom?
Exactly. And then come to find out, Lucille was actually in Boston to be in a production, and Simon tells her, you know, she just chose to like leave you guys behind. She was never coming back.
That was fucked up.
That was fucked up. But then like the story just keeps unraveling because Marion discovers that the producer of the play is the same one who had worked alongside her mother. And she learns throughout all these different point of views that Simon was actually threatening to take sole custody of the kids because Lucille not only wanted a divorce, which good for her, to be honest, but, you know, she was leaving. So he's like, you know, you're going to be gone X amount of time. But like her plan was always to come back and like be on Broadway in New York instead of doing, you know, and that part of her contract was that she would have the ability to come home once a week to see her kids. But Simon was like, well, if you do that, like, I'm going to take the kids away from you. And so she was just kind of sneaking around town when she could and like would check in on them from afar, which like Marion believed to be like an apparition of her mother. But it really was her. Like, she cared a lot about her children, and she wanted the ability to fulfill her needs as well as her children's needs.
And she even said to him, now that the kids are older, now I want to actually get back to all this stuff that I put on the back burner for so many years.
Exactly.
So she was finally ready to prioritize herself. And he was like, who the fuck is going to make me dinner?
Yeah. And unfortunately, after like a heated conversation, she was very distracted and she stepped out onto a street and got hit by a car. So Simon is 100% to blame for Lucille's death.
He is. He's to blame for fucking everything.
A lot.
And the way that he makes Marion feel responsible for the mother's death, for Judy's death, for everything is so disgusting.
I know. And she does confront her father about everything. And even after learning how the harm he caused, you know, all the harm he caused, she's still able to cast aside her resentment for him. And she takes care of him. After learning about the Parkinson's, she ends up moving back home, still keeping her job in the city, thankfully, but she's forfeiting her dream to live independently. So, you know, it's kind of like a sad moment of the book, because the whole premise of it was that she was finally finding her own individuality, and she was giving herself the freedom to live the life that she wanted to live instead of being put in this box. And it just didn't pan out that way.
That pissed me off, okay? Because he didn't even take accountability for a single fucking thing. He was like, woe is me, now I don't have a job and I have Parkinson's and I did all of this because I'm such a great guy. And I was like, the way I would have turned around and never seen this man again.
Yep, literally. So throughout the novel, there are moments where it becomes clear that Marion and Peter have begun to care greatly for each other. And after all is said and done with the bomber, Marion believes the two can begin a relationship because she has like fallen in love with Peter throughout this entire book. And Peter, although, is adamant that it wouldn't work between them. You know, he was now taking a job with the FBI and he would be in Virginia. She was now going to begin this budgeting career of being a choreographer. So he was kind of using that as his scapegoat of like, we can never be together, but he was stuttering. And so Marion was like, knew he was lying, but then she's also like stuck in like, she could feel the contradictoriness of him in general, because he was very like hot and cold, because like he definitely, I think that Peter Griggs as a character never wanted to be in love and like never wanted to be in a relationship. And I think Marion surprised him and he couldn't help how he felt. So and he just pushes her away.
Yes. And even when they first met, that's why he was kind of like cold and standoffish to her, because he had seen how his parents' relationship was just completely ruined, and he never wanted that for himself.
No, and the two of them, like, she does date after Peter, and she got close to getting married, but never actually got married, and we find out, like, Peter never did either. So in the present timeline, Marion is escorted to Radio City Music Hall by a young administrative assistant for the Rockettes to attend the reunion, where a tribute is also occurring to those affected by the Big Apple bomber. And during the reunion performance, Marion is called onto stage to receive recognition for her heroic efforts. And like in this chapter, we also discover that she has Parkinson's. So she has, but she's doing all this amazing work to stave it off, which I think is really cool. And then I learned that Fiona Davis has Parkinson's.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay.
So this is like a piece of her that she has incorporated into Marion's character. So I really liked that. I like when authors take a personal thing and kind of like incorporate it. Peter is also chosen to attend, much to Marion's surprise, and accepts the recognition alongside her. The two are reunited after decades apart and decide to give their love a second chance after Peter admits that he didn't pursue a relationship with her because of his fear of becoming schizophrenic, like both of his parents did. So by like the age 35, both of his parents ended up with this mental illness that took their lives. Mm-hmm. And he was which is like a big reason why he became a psychiatrist, and while he was doing as much work as he could to educate other people and everything, because he thought by the time he turned 35 he would be done for. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then he reaches the age of 35 and he's like, oh, I'm still me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like, I'm fine.
Oh, like I gave up a lot in my life because I was afraid of a diagnosis that never even came to fruition, which is like sad, obviously, because now like he missed out on so much because of an unknown scenario.
Yeah, because he saw the way that his dad treated his mom when she was having her issues, and the way that he just like sent her away and then never wanted to talk about her and treated her like she was like a leper.
Yeah.
And he also sees the way society treats people with mental illness. And even at his job, he's like, the way we're doing this is so fucked up. Like, this is not rehabilitation. This is not trying to understand. This is just turning patients into zombies.
Yeah.
So like he saw that could potentially be him, and that society would treat him the same way.
Yeah. And like, you know, obviously Marion says, well, listen, like I have a disease, like I have a debilitating disease. So, you know, you're going to have, you know, there's no guarantee of what my life's going to look like. And Peter's like, no, like I'm all in. And I don't know, like I really liked this moment because it's full circle. It's at the same location where Marion basically wants to be with Peter and wants to start their relationship, and it's where he ultimately ends it. And he basically says when they're there, he was like, ask me again. You know, like what you asked me however many years ago. And then so I liked that. And I liked that I think it was nice that the romance didn't like overtake the book at all. Like you were never met with this full-blown big romantic scene between Marion and Peter. It was just always like quietly added in. So it didn't take away from like the thriller aspect of it. It didn't take away from Marion's character whatsoever. And
it was very 1950s coded.
Yeah, and I just really liked how she wrote it. Like because I think like you could take a big romantic moment and throw it into this book, but it wouldn't fit. So like I'm very happy that she didn't do that.
Yeah, I also really liked at the end because Marion's biggest thing when she finds out why Peter didn't want to be with her all those years ago is that he didn't give her the choice. He should have been honest with her, and then it would be her choice whether she wanted to be with him after that. And now she is openly telling him her issues so that he can make the choice. Like, and we know that Marion has always been more open than Peter. She's always been more communicative and emotional and stuff. So the fact that she is expressing and basically doing the opposite of what he did, which bothered her so much, you know?
Yeah, and it's also crazy because like the two never had sex. So they just went like this entire
when they're out here like she's like, well, I'm in love with you. And he's like, what? He's like, I'm in love with you too. I'm like, you don't even know each other.
I know. Oh my gosh. But all right. So before we get into a little bit more about it, let's do an ad break, huh?
Let's do it. You know, here at Fully Booked and Caffeinated, we love coffee, but there are so many options to choose from in the coffee game. So how can you narrow it down? Well, allow us to help. Afuera Coffee is a company that sources their specialty beans from Central and South America, and the environment is quite literally in every bean. The volcanic soil infuses each coffee bean with vibrant and unique flavors. They have a flavor for everyone based on your personal tastes. Bold espresso for me, smooth light roast for Heather. And that's not all. The best part about Afuera Coffee is the ethical sourcing and sustainable farming practices they use to give you the best coffee while still protecting Mother Earth. And there's more. 5% of all sales are donated back to charities that provide conservation efforts to the great outdoors. If you don't believe me, go to their website, afueracoffee.com, and click on the 5% pledge tab. They have some great info on how much their pledge to charity has already impacted the environment. So check out Afuera Coffee if you're looking for great tasting, vibrant coffee, and you can rest assured knowing that you're contributing not only to your own happiness, but to the environment that we so desperately need to protect. This is an exclusive discount for listeners of our show. Use our promo code to get 15% off any product at afueracoffee.com. That's AFUERA coffee.com. Use promo code CAFFPOD, CAFFPOD. Again, that's afueracoffee.com, promo code CAFFPOD for 15% off sustainable and ethically sourced coffee.
Here at Fully Booked and Caffeinated, Kelsey and I love a good strong coffee. But sometimes you just need a coffee to take the edge off and not keep you up all night, or maybe you're cutting back on your caffeine intake without sacrificing the flavor. Well, that's where Savorista Coffee comes in. Savorista Coffee offers premium craft decaf and half-calf blends that are small batch roasted for exceptional taste, with ethically sourced beans, natural decaffeination, and bold flavors, such as the Colombian Inspiration Decaf with chocolate, caramel, citrus, and fruit notes, or the Barely Buzzed Half Calf with dark chocolate, toasted marshmallows, and walnuts, which is directly going into my shopping cart. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount of 25% off any product with our promo code CAFFPOD. So head on over to Savorista.com and be sure to put in that promo code during checkout. Again, that's Savorista, Savorista.com, promo code CAFFPOD, to try out what customers rave to be the best decaf coffee they've ever tried.
And we're back. So, what direction do you think Marion's life would have taken if she hadn't shown up to the Rockettes audition? Would she have become a trad wife?
I think she would have pushed Nathaniel off for as long as she possibly could, and then she would end up running away at the altar. A little runaway bride moment.
Yeah, the pressure of like an engagement that you know nothing about but everyone else knows about and you're just expected to say yes couldn't be me.
And the fact that whenever she pictured her life with Nathaniel, she couldn't picture it. She couldn't picture like giving up everything for him because she didn't feel strongly enough about him.
Yeah.
And the fact that her dad was so far up Nathaniel's asshole, and she was like, oh, he'd rather have Nathaniel as a son than me as a daughter. Like, that's complicated.
Yeah, and like pushing them to move in after they got married, which was basically only so that they could take care of him when he was ill, you know. But also, like, you don't want to live with your, you know, Marion would have been stripped of every ounce of independence she could have ever had if she ended up going down that route.
Simon was so fucking manipulative because he dangled that job over Nathaniel's head and withdrew his permission or his blessing for them to get married until Nathaniel could corral Marion and, you know, get her on her fucking leash or whatever. And he knew that Nathaniel would look at this nice big house and look at their cushy life and be like, of course I want this. Of course I need to just get Marion in line so that I can have this great future with Met power.
Exactly. And at the very end, he like says, oh, like, I think I'm going to get a job with them. And Marion's like, I would look elsewhere.
Just like read the paper tomorrow and then look elsewhere.
I don't think they're going to be around much longer. She would have had the life her mother had that her mother clearly hated. So that would have sucked. the and I hadn't even thought about this until like we were started talking about it, but then there's like the idea of Lucille and her life choices and how she did initially give up her dream to be a mother and to raise her children. And at some point she decided, I want to go back and I want to try again. And to be met with such, no, just no, like you can't do that. And it's so insane that is how it was back then.
And that she spent so much time, so much of her life dedicated to Simon and their family, and put everything that she wanted on hold, did everything for him, like, respected all his wishes. And then when she says, hey, I want to go back and have a little more freedom to pursue my dreams, she thinks that this man who's supposed to be her partner is going to respect what she wants. And he's like, no, I thought I told you already, however many years ago, that you ain't doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest problem with breaking the narrative of motherhood and this specific ideology that once you're a mom, that's all you can do. Like you shouldn't have any other wants or needs. Like this should be enough for you. Because even still in like today's time, especially in this like political climate, if you want to do anything other than being a mom, it's met with like judgment and, you should just be taking care of your kids. What more could you need? And that's not true. Just because you now have birthed children doesn't mean that you should lose all sense of your identity, and I think it is something that is definitely becoming more prominent and being more talked about as time goes on, that you are more than just a mom. And that while you obviously can never be the same person you were beforehand, it doesn't mean that it should stop you from still having dreams and hopes and wanting to pursue a certain career. Same thing with like working moms. Like there's this big judgment on you. What do you mean you're not a stay-at-home mom? Like, what do you mean like you're working and you're putting your kids in childcare? Like the fact that people are still having this crazy conversations about wanting to control how every woman on this planet should mother is just like, it's just insane. Like it's literally insanity.
Yeah. And my mom went through basically this exact same thing. Like she was an artist when she was younger, like in college and stuff. And then after she had already had my sister, but then after she married my dad and they had me, my mom was a homemaker. Like she stayed home with us girls and my dad worked, and she like, made sure dinner was on the table, made sure the house was clean, like all of this trad wife stuff, and gave up all of her creativity, gave up all of her artistic, you know what I mean? And I saw how she completely lost herself and how she was reduced to just being a mom and just being a homemaker. And it was almost impossible for her to pull herself out of that.
Especially in that time too. I think we're at least given a little bit more leeway now in trying to do both, but in the times that like even our parents, there was like this stigma of like you had to be like a stay-at-home mom. Like I had two working parents. I never saw my parents. I saw my grandparents more than I saw my parents.
Yeah. And even though obviously, like you said, tradwife culture is like all the rage now because of like the political climate and Christian nationalism, it's still, women have something that they can fall back on. Whereas before you could speak out about these things, but you couldn't get a job that could support your family. You couldn't have a job and have children because systems weren't in place for women to be able to do both.
Yeah, and I think that also what people don't realize too, in today's society, it is very hard to survive on one income. So it there might be moms, and I see this a lot on TikTok, there are working moms that strive to be stay-at-home moms because they don't want to be away from their children and lose time, but they don't have a choice because if both parents aren't working, then we would be, you know, in poverty. We wouldn't be able to like survive, you know. So it's just all around, it sucks. You know, being a being a mom is hard. You know, it's not as easy as some might think. And I think it's like, it's just insane that these are still, that what was going on in the 1950s is still trying to happen in the 2020s.
Yeah. And I think to your point of Marion obviously not having that experience because she wasn't a mother, but she had the experience that I have, which is like, people think that because you don't want to have kids, you don't have a purpose and you aren't fulfilling your purpose, or there's something wrong with you or whatever. And because she didn't want that life, they thought that she wasn't smart. They thought that she wasn't planning for her future, that she didn't care about her future, that she was impulsive, like all of these negative connotations just because she didn't want that perfect, quote unquote, perfect trad wife life.
Yeah, and then it's also interesting if you like look at it from a different lens of Judy, who when Marion discovers that Judy wanted to get married and have a family, she was like shocked because she like never, because Judy is not the quintessential, you know, the what a trad wife would look like. You know what I mean? And so like,
but like Judy, ugly men need wives too. Ugly women get married all the time. It's like, fine.
And it's like you still deal with that too, that just because a woman might not be up to tier with like what society believes a woman should look like, then she loses all credit and you know.
Yeah, and it's so upsetting because in that time, when that was all women had to offer, was finding someone to marry and finding someone to settle down with. They had to be beautiful in order to attract the right man, you know, a good upstanding man who would take care of them. And so because Judy didn't have classic beauty, she realized that she would never have that. And that's horrific. So she's like, oh, now I just have to do my lady career and follow my dad around.
And even like she had an aspiration to maybe go to it. She had a chance to have a job out in like California, but like she chose not to take it to like not disappoint her father. So it's just like crazy how family dynamics can have such control over your life decisions against your will.
Yeah, and obviously that was because they had lost their mother, and so the three of them were very close, and because they felt for their dad that he lost their mom, and he was very protective over them because of that. But this man was a monster.
I know, and like that's also kind of like, you know, it would have affected their relationship and what they chose had they had known all along about their mother. But the fact that like Simon hid who their mother was from them, they had obviously no other inclination, and so they just believed what he said, and they became this little unit that was always going to be there for each other. Whereas had they known, Judy probably would have taken that job in California. You know, Marion would have been more pushy about wanting to be in a performing arts, but you know, instead they just kind of conformed to whatever Simon wanted their lives to look like.
And Judy also had the added element of Marion had always been the favorite because she was the beautiful one and the talented one, and she reminded Simon of his wife. But when Judy was able to contribute to his work and impress him with how organized she was and how good of a secretary she was, that was finally her chance to connect with him and for him to be proud of her, because he wasn't, he barely acknowledged her before.
God, fathers fucked up even in the 50s.
He was the worst, and like just so openly manipulative. Like this was It would be different if it was framed as like all of this was from a place of love and from a place of like concern. But he was so openly manipulative the way that he would withhold, like take their jewelry from them.
Yeah, that was weird. But then they knew how to get it. I don't know. It was just a weird power dynamic.
That was very icky. Like. I did not like it. And then like withholding the stuff from Nathaniel so that he would like, it was just all very gross. And the way that he completely iced out Marion whenever she tried to talk with him or relate to him or even take care of him. And he just withheld his love from her. It was just so like emotionally abusive.
Yep.
That's Simon. That guy.
So I think the one thing that we both liked about the book was like the Rockette aspect. And it wasn't like overly done. I think that it was like the perfect amount. Like I learned so much, you know, and so I was excited to read this in general because like I have like a personal connection like to the Rockettes. You know, because like my grandma had auditioned or wanted to be one, but she was unfortunately too short. But like her good friend was a Rockette, and then the two of them ended up opening a dance studio together. And I never put two and two together because the dance studio was called Rehearsal Hall, and that is what they called it at Radio City. And I was like, wow, I wish I knew that years ago. And that I should not have only discovered that in my 36th year of life.
Yeah, I thought the Rockette part was really cool. And it added so much of this imagery and just something that is so nostalgic, especially to us living, you know, in the New York area. Like everyone knows about the Rockettes. Like it's such an experience. And there were a few parts like where she was describing in depth like the stage and the booms and the cables and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, I don't care about this, but I liked that it was so detailed and that she did do that research.
Yeah, like it was actually really cool to learn more about the Rockettes because, you know, I love dance. I grew up dancing, and knowing that this was like my grandma's dream, but she was unable to achieve it due to a height issue, which is like so sad. But, you know, and just learning that like when they do the kick lines, like they're not actually touching, and like that's just, they have like this whole, the show is an illusion, and it's the most fantastical show to see. I've seen it a couple times.
I've only been twice, but I do think we should go this Christmas. But I was fascinated about how they didn't like Marion because she stood out, and the whole point is that they're supposed to be
blended,
uniform and blended. And like as soon as they said it, I'm like, oh, duh, of course the Rockettes need to look like this one cell, well-oiled machine. But it was crazy to see that actually spelled out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was really cool. I definitely liked that because sometimes I feel like you can. A point of a book can be like beaten into you to the point that you're like lose interest, and I think it was like the perfect amount that she added into the novel about the Rockettes.
Yeah, especially because the first half of the book was just the Rockettes.
Yeah,
the second half was basically just the bomb investigation. So it felt, in some ways, it felt like two separate books, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, like it flowed really well together. Like I think I really liked like that there were so many different aspects, because you have like the historical side of it being in the 50s and what it was like back what it was like back then. Then you have like the thriller aspect of like, oh, there's a bomber, and then a slight romance, and then just women's friendships. It's just there was a lot going on that it surprisingly meshed together really, really well.
Yeah, because even when you just read the description of the book, I was like, wow, that sounds like
it's a lot.
Mess.
I know. I was saying too, I was reading it and I was like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be like. And then I was like, oh, wow. Like I couldn't put it down. Like there were a lot of times that I was like, all right, like this is good. Like I don't want to stop reading.
And this book is only 350 pages. So like it's a lot for her to pack in there.
Yeah. She did it though.
I agree.
Is there anything else you wanted to discuss before
I think that's it.
All right, so our ratings are out of wooden soldier costumes because those sounded terrible.
How were they kicking in them if they were so stiff?
No, I was like, oh, that sounds bad. That sounds really bad. And also the fact that they're doing these shows 4 times a day, 3 weeks straight.
7 days a week.
7 days a week, 3 weeks straight. You get 1 week off, 3 on, 1 off. I was like, I would keel over and die.
I was like, we need to talk to, is the labor union involved in this? Because Jesus Christ, I'm sure the Rockettes have a union now.
Yeah, I know. I actually have a friend whose sister-in-law was a Rockette, so maybe I can try to get some intel.
Yeah, try to get a little information.
Anyways, what was your rating of Spectacular?
I rated this 4 wooden soldier costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved most of it. I liked, like we talked about, how there was so much of the Rockettes and this like just vibrant imagery and this sense of like glorifying it, but also showing all that goes into it and all the work behind it. And then you still had that thriller aspect. It didn't feel forced. It felt very organic with the way the story was being told.
Yeah.
The parts that I didn't like were were every time that Marion tried to have a conversation with Simon. It felt so repetitive. Yeah. It felt so like,
I agree with that.
Like, girl, he's not going to listen to you. Just shut the fuck up. Like, that part was annoying to me. And I felt like some of the dialogue was just very like surface level. Like, I didn't feel like we got deep enough sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can also, I can agree with that as well.
Yeah, but I liked the, not even like the feminist aspect, because they didn't really get into that much, but it was more the independence aspect. I loved that, especially as an independent queen. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just thought it was really well written. And now that we're talking about it, like thinking of how she packed all of this into this pretty short book, I also was like racing through it, first of all because I had to finish it for the podcast, but also because it was really interesting and like kind of a fun read. So
I
liked it.
I rated it 4.5 wooden soldier costumes. Fiona Davis is now going to be like a staple for me, I think. Like, knowing that she writes about specific buildings in New York City, I just love that.
And you really like historical fiction too.
I do like historical fiction. And so like seeing how she wrote The Spectacular and how much I really enjoyed it, I definitely will keep an eye out for her books at like, Book Garden and stuff like that, and grab them and everything, and keep an eye out for like her new releases and stuff. Cause I think that it was just a really good read. I just, it didn't like, amaze me to the point that I like felt like I had to give it 5 stars, but it was good enough that I was like, oh, like this is impactful in at least a good way.
Yeah, it had a lot of different elements that worked together. So I have 2 other books by her, and this one I've had on my bookshelf forever, and I just never prioritized it. And you're like, oh, we're going to read this, and I'm like, oh. I've had that one for a while. It was actually still in a box from when I moved, and I had to dig it out of a box. But I'm happy that you picked it, because otherwise, I wouldn't have read this for God knows how long.
No, I know. I was very happy with this choice for sure. All right. That's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on. If you have any book If you have any book recommendations, If you have any book recs or questions for us, you can email us at fullybookedcafpod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at fullybookedcafpod to see our upcoming reads. Thanks for checking us out, and remember,
if you need us, we're fully booked.
Bye.